Yo, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Celtics Chronicle. As usual, I'm your host, Adam Taylor from SB Nation, USA Today, and the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. Links below in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And as usual, I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Tim Shields. What's poppin', Tim?
Not much, man. It's kind of funny now. I was so upset about the Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom casting, but it seems like there's more discourse to be had today.
Yeah, so I'm actually okay with the Victor Von Doom casting, and we can save that for deeper into the off-season, right? But I'm not okay with Jayson Tatum getting 0 minutes. I'm not okay with the fact he was fully healthy, right? So the number one thing that was kind of floating around on social media was maybe he's sick, he's got his hand taped up, a couple of his fingers are taped, maybe he's hurt a little bit, they're keeping him out for that. Come to find out from Gary Washburn, who was reporting from France, he asked Tatum after the game, like, yo, are you okay? You hurt? You sick? Tatum's like, no, I'm all good. Okay, so Tatum got a legitimate, and Bobby Manning pointed this out earlier as well, arguably the first DNP-CD of his entire playing career, right? Tatum just sat on the bench, had to cheer for dudes that he's beat this year, you know what I'm saying? And I get it. Like Steve Kerr said after the game, and if you're watching on Spotify, because we have the video there, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see the pop-up now. But Steve Kerr said after the game, like, yo, it's a tough decision to make. All NBA first team 3 years running, NBA champion, top 10 guy in the world. Had to make room for Kevin Durant. And Tatum was kind of the guy that fell by the wayside because of that. Okay, cool. Now I've got a lot of thoughts on this, a lot of thoughts, which we're going to get into in a moment. Before that, I just want to get your kind of overarching response to Tatum getting a DNP CD, and then we can flow into why that was complete and utter bullshit.
I love how you kind of just like already put cart before horse. Like we know how we feel here. We're not going to mince words on this. I, from a coaching standpoint, it's like, okay, I get that this is always going to be a problem with the national team, and especially this iteration of the U.S. national team. It's an insanely stacked roster. However, I refuse to believe that they couldn't find a role for him. And I think saying that, oh, Kevin Durant comes into the situation, Kevin Durant gets minutes. Okay, sure. Like, I get that. But you're talking about Jayson Tatum. He's one of the easiest players to plug and play. He can play the 3, he can play the 4. Obviously, if you're playing against Serbia in this instance, against Nikola Jokic, you're not going to play him at the 5, but like if you ever want to do small ball, he can do that. But the beauty of him is that he can create plays for others. He can score on his own. He can score in isolation. He's a really, really good defender. He's a good help defender. He checks all of the boxes that you want for a guy that you can just throw into whatever minutes you're going to give him, and he's going to make it work, and he's going to excel. We've seen this at the national level for Team USA with Jayson Tatum before. I don't understand how you can't give him any minutes in this situation. In my mind, this is a failure on coaching. Like, this is a failure on Steve Kerr.
Straight
And
negligence, bro. Straight negligence.
this is occupational negligence. And I just don't understand what the thought process was of like, well, I sat down and I did the lineups. Like, well, clearly you didn't do a good job because there's this one guy who just won an NBA championship that you're not giving any minutes to. So, like, and you gave minutes to Derek White and Drew Holiday. Drew looked great in his minutes, and obviously Derek White's going to do whatever you need him to do. He's a glue guy. But for Jayson Tatum to not get any minutes here, it just, not only is it mind-boggling, but it's really frustrating from like a coaching standpoint because it's a bad look for across the board because he really didn't have any kind of answer other than, well, we've got Kevin Durant back in and, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, well, this is still Jayson Tatum. This is still one of the faces of the future of American basketball. Like, he should be getting minutes. I get that LeBron made the Avengers the super team and brought everybody out for this, but Jayson Tatum should be getting minutes on this team, and that they're lucky that they won. And I know that they won handily. Like, by the end of the time, like, they just blew them out in the second half. Serbia just couldn't keep up. Outscored, what was it? 35-52. They outscored them. So clearly they were, all gas, no brakes in that outcome. But it still just doesn't make sense to me. Like, there wasn't really any good reason. And so, like, really my immediate reaction is rage and also like, hey, Steve Kerr, like, what are we doing here, buddy? Like, do we not have another smarter coach to, like, go into his ear and say, hey, you should kind of sort of play Jayson Tatum? There's no explaining it. There really is no explaining it away. So the excuse that he came out with after the game was really despicable. I really hated that response from Kerr. It needs to be better.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, Kevin Durant went 100% from deep. He missed one shot all game, right? He's arguably the best international scorer we've ever seen. Definitely the best international Team USA guy. Like, there's
Without question.
no shade on KD. My argument isn't about finding minutes for KD at the expense of Tatum. It's about where minutes could have came from for Tatum, right? So, first of all, you got Joel Embiid. Just doesn't look like he should be out there right now. Still definitely feeling the effects of that meniscus surgery. Nowhere near 80%, never mind 100%. Very slow. No, not impactful really in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't have much bounce. Doesn't seem to be asserting his physicality. Get him out of there. Then you can slide Bam off, or you can do what you need to do. You can create some minutes for JT that way. If you're hell bent on keeping Embiid in, okay, cool. Big body, rim protection. You're going to come up against France at some point. You need that type of physicality down low. I get it. If you want to keep Embiid there, Kerr is running 3 guard lineups, starting rotation. Steph Curry, Drew Holiday, Devin Booker. I'm sorry, what? Why do you need to run 3 guard rotations when you have such an elite front court options around you? You've got Durant, you've got LeBron, you've got Tatum, you've got Bam if you want to play him at the 4. You've got so many options that you can iterate through at the 3 and the 4 that it didn't make sense to me. And this is no shade on Devin Booker, but I think Tatum's just an overall better player than Devin Booker. If you need to find minutes, why is Booker getting minutes over Tatum? That's the number one question for me. No shade on Devin Booker. He played really well. He hit his shot. Good teammates with KD. One of the better scorers in the league. Has developed his playmaking. Isn't really terrible on defense, but he's not Jayson Tatum. And if you're going to play Booker at the 3, why can't you put Tatum at the 3 instead? And have extra size, extra help defense, an additional ball handler to take some pressure off LeBron and to be able to create from the pick and roll, give you some counters and some decoy actions, give you an interior scorer that can pressure the rim at will, can hit the 3-point shot as a spot-up guy. He's struggling off the dribble recently. Okay, I get it. One of the better help defenders in terms of weak side rotations. One of the best screening forwards in the NBA in terms of a star. Knows when to pop, knows when to roll, can hit short roll creation. Like, he gives you so much, but you went with Devin Booker. That's still really good and still an all-star, but he's not Jayson Tatum. He's not the best player on the best team in the NBA right now. That dude was sitting on the bench watching the game, wondering what the fuck was going on. Personally, I think that's some bullshit. I'm big on Devin Booker. Cool. I don't think, if you want Embiid there, cool. But at that point, Book needs to drop back. If not Book, then maybe Anthony Edwards. I get it. Anthony Edwards has got this whole media like momentum going behind him. There's this whole talk aura. Again, that's bullshit.
I was about to say aura.
Oh, the only aura I know is Rita Ora. Do you ever hear of Rita Ora? She sings songs.
Yes,
yeah.
I know Rita Ora.
That's the only aura I heard about. Don't be talking to me about no aura. That is not basketball analysis. That is bullshit. So that bothers me a lot. Like, I think Ant was great, and I like the mentality he brings. I like the scoring he brings. To be honest, he's one of my favorite players in the league. So the fact that he had minutes was fine. But if you've got Book and you've got Edwards, choose one of the two and then put Tatum into that spot. And that was where my biggest issue was. There was a world where you could have found minutes for him and he could have made an impact. And look, man, I mean, this is a Celtics show, right? So we're meant to have a certain level of bias. We're both Celtics fans. Like, you know, I spend most of my day watching Celtics film, covering the Celtics, writing about it. That's what we do. So we are meant to have a certain level of bias. But even if you remove yourself and you don't have the negative, but you just remove the bias, but you also don't allow yourself to be negative. Tatum should have been in that rotation over one of those guys that we've just mentioned. I don't care who it was. Tatum shouldn't have fallen that far down the pecking order. No chance. He's a top 10 guy. So why isn't he in? And Kerr's like, oh, well, it's tough to play more than a 10-man rotation. So I went with 10 guys. Cool. But you left a top 10 guy on the bench, which means the top 12 to 15 to 20 guy was on the floor. You got worse by making that decision. It makes no sense to me. Negligent, honestly. And I'm a big Steve Kerr guy. I think that I don't agree with the narratives that He looked into a championship winning roster. I think that, they were losing before he got there. They didn't make it to the finals until Kerr got there. He revolutionized them. He's won as a player. He's won as a coach. I've always defended Steve Kerr. But some of the things that Warriors fans have been saying about his decision-making in the last few years, I understand it, because that's some bullshit, dude. And my wife laughs whenever I say this saying, but some weak sauce, bro. Some weak sauce.
It is an indefensible move. I think when you look at the minutes conversation, and that's really where it gets kind of a sticky situation, because you want Joel Embiid, who made this choice to play for Team USA, wasn't going to play for Cameroon because he didn't like their chances of making the Olympic qualifiers, didn't play for France, which, by the way, I'm sure people noticed, they are pissed. If you listen to the crowd in France, and you could hear it in this game, every single time Embiid touched the ball, you heard boos raining down from the crowds. So, and I don't think that, don't get me wrong, fan feelings should not factor into this as much as, other decisions like basketball fit and also
Health.
fitness.
Yeah.
Health, which is also, again, like, if you want to get the most out of Joel Embiid, this is not the way to do it. Having him kind of trounce about, not really doing anything on offense, playing, a team low in minutes, 3 fouls, a flagrant foul, which I get the call. It made sense for them to make that call, because he was trying to get a stop foul. LeBron fouled right before that, got tangled up. It happens. But again, you need to be smarter. You need to make better choices with this roster, and it doesn't make sense when you have the depth that you have at center between just Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo right there. Boom, 2 All-NBA level guys at center. Play them at the 5.
But you keep putting Master
and figure it
Uguay on
out.
the floor.
Yeah, it's like, I get it. Like, you're going against Nikola Jokic in this matchup. You need the size. But at the same time, like, it just, logistically, it doesn't make sense to me that you've got a goose egg for a guy who's coming off an NBA championship and
who
is one
led
of your
the team
best players.
in points, rebounds, and assists. And you missed my Master Uguay joke. I'm very upset with you.
You're talking about Master Uguay as in, like,
He's a
Kung Fu Panda Master Uguay.
He's a turtle.
Oh,
He's
I've
very
heard it.
slow. That's Embiid right now.
Yeah.
Very slow. Very slow.
I mean, do you think that it's something that they look out for the next games? Like, does Joel Embiid run the pine a little bit more? Are they going to take turns in some of these matchups saying, hey, you know what? We had this guy sit out this time. Tatum's going to play this game. Embiid's going to rest this one. Like, is that, you think, something that they're considering at all? Or is this straight up just Steve Kerr, Steve Kerr?
I mean, I wrote about this. I've been doing takeaways after every Olympic Games over at Yardbarker. They're only short, 3 takeaways, just over, like, high level. I'm not diving into film or anything. I don't know what the Olympics stance is on using film, so I've just been doing it high level. But South Sudan dominated the glass against Puerto Rico today. So we're recording this on Sunday. South Sudan beat Puerto Rico today. On a side note, we got to see Tremont Waters play. Hey, Tremont. Been a minute. Sudan destroyed them on the glass. 18 offensive rebounds to 10. So they had an 8 rebound advantage on the offensive glass. They had a 22-point advantage in second chance points. And they won the rebounding battle overall 55-37. So Sudan really crashed the glass. They're athletic, they're physical, they're explosive. I think that you need to take a hard look at whether Embiid is going to be able to deal with that type of physicality and actually give you tangible results. And if not, Tatum is one of the best rebounding 4s in the NBA right now. So if you're not comfortable and saying, like, with Embiid keeping up with the pace that Sudan play at, the explosiveness, the physicality, the lengths that they've got, if all of these things are going to bother him because he's not where he needs to be, and he's come on this trip with his team, but he's not healthy enough, really, which he's not. He wasn't healthy in the playoffs either. We saw it with Rob Williams after his meniscus surgery. It takes a while to get back, right? If Embiid's not there and you're not comfortable and you're coming up against a Sudanese team that are super athletic, super long, very physical, that they're one of these teams that don't know they should lose type of things, you know what I mean? Tatum makes more sense there to me as a weak side, like, glass cleaner and a weak side rotation shot deterrent than what Embiid does. And if you keep Embiid, then again, maybe you look at D-Book because Tatum can give you the extra presence on the glass that you're not going to get with Booker there. And you're going to need it because that was the number one takeaway from the game against Puerto Rico was Sudan destroyed them on the glass. And it was pretty much the game right there. Do you know what I mean? Sudan's second chance points, which came off offensive boards, it came off running in transition when you pulled down the defensive rebound. That was the margin of victory. It was actually more than what the margin of victory was. So you need to control that glass, and Tatum is a much better option for you there.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue against the results, right? You know, I was just pulling up the team stats to just see how things have kind of been faring for United States versus Serbia in terms of the rebounding, and just overall like looking at that box score. But I mean, total rebounds on the defensive side of things. U.S. actually did really, really good on the defensive rebounds against Serbia. Out-rebounded them 33-22, and offensively got out-rebounded 10-6. So, like, in terms of overall, like, rebound differential, like, really, really close. And that's against a team like Serbia, who, I don't know if you've heard of him, Nikola Jokic, this guy's pretty good.
Serbia are just good in
Rebounds like
general,
crazy.
dude. Like, they're a tough out.
And they've got some really, really good talented guys there. So, looking at a situation where you're going against South Sudan, a team that you almost lost to in the preliminary games, you kind of need to have your best team out there. And if you can't confidently say that Joel Embiid being out there is going to, you know, really make a difference over having Jayson Tatum in his place or, you know, figuring out the minutes, not rotation-wise, but you know what I mean? Like, you're not putting him at the 5 or whatever, but just having him eat some of those minutes up. I don't think you can sit there with a straight face and say Joel Embiid's going to help you in this situation.
More importantly,
you need the speed.
I don't think you can sit there and say Jayson Tatum isn't going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's just like I worry about Embiid's health. Like in terms of, I worried about it before the Olympics even started. Yeah. They're showing him in practices, moving like molasses, just not good. And I get like for him, moving like molasses is only appropriate. With Embiid specifically, just everything about the movement's not been right, and it's not been right for a long time. I had these concerns going in.
We saw it with Rob when it was the 2022 NBA Finals run, and Rob came back late because he had the meniscus surgery, and he was never himself all the way through that run, and then he missed the start of the following season, if I remember correctly, because he had because he ended up needing another surgery again because he'd come back too soon. Embiid's risking that in this. But that's not our problem. I know that sounds horrible, but that's a Philadelphia podcast problem.
He wanted to play. Like, that's the thing. This is a chance to play for the national team. This is big, and I get that. I totally get that.
But at the same time,
you need to win games.
Tatum wants to play. Tatum gave up a season of working with Drew Hanlon, being with Deuce, being on a beach, rest and recovery after and you put him on the bench. I don't know, man. It just makes no sense to me. And I think if he doesn't play against Sudan, then this is more than just making room for Kevin Durant because there are other ways to do that. So I think the Sudan game is going to tell us a lot about where Tatum stands in Steve Kerr's hierarchy. Now, fortunately, this is Kerr's last trip with Team USA. He's done his 2. He bounces. Somebody else comes in. Hopefully, it's Joe Mazzulla. So then he's like, we're just going to take the Celtics and, you know, maybe Anthony Davis to replace KP and we're done. But jokes aside, this is Kerr's last stretch, but at the same time, I think because of what Sudan bring on the glass and what they bring in terms of length, you need to match that a little bit. And if Tatum doesn't play, that says a lot about where Kerr values Tatum compared to others. And it also says a lot about why Kerr's an idiot, to be honest. And I like Steve Kerr. I mean, I can like you when you be an idiot at the same time. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I could think of many instances in sports where I've been like, I love you, but you're being dumb. Yeah. Like, don't do that.
I say shit that's dumb all the time. I probably said dumb shit on this podcast.
Like, I probably did. I do it all the time.
Happens.
It's my favorite pastime.
But at the same time, I think the Sudan game is going to be a good measuring stick for whether Tatum's going to have a legitimate role this tournament or not. And I know Kerr said that he's going to make his impact. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to make his impact. It's not about opportunity. He's done. He's earning opportunity. He's cemented himself as one of the best. He shouldn't have to wait for that. He should just be given that. And I think that's a big issue for me personally. He better play. If he doesn't, I'm going to be all over the timeline going crazy. I wasn't exactly calm on the timeline this time. Other than that, Make sure you subscribe to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. I've been a little bit patchy this last week or two. It's the off season. I'm taking some off time too. I apologize, but I'm human. Make sure you show Tim some love on social. Show me some love over on Twitter, on Instagram, on wherever. I'm everywhere at Adam Taylor NBA. We'll be back again in the week. We have got quite a few topics we want to hit on, so we'll probably be around quite a bit this week. Until next time, peace.
Cheers.